and I hear the first officer call out. And then the first officer jumps on the radio and he screams, "Holy shit, it's the Goatman." And I mean, it's just like everything went quiet. And I could hear the ringing in my ears, and I could feel my heart race. And so I hit my light and I went flying up there.
I've been told by some older people, elders, that you grab them and you hold them and you don't own them, but you hold them there until daylight. If you can hold them or pull them into the light, it destroys anything they have, any kind of power or anything they were trying to do to you. It'll destroy them.
This guy was like bouncing, like, you know, like how you see people kind of getting ready to jig, you know how they kind of bounce? Yeah, he was like that way. He was just kind of bouncing, and he was just kind of going back and forth from one foot to the other. And he just kind of turned sideways, and he turned back over to the other way, and he took off. Holy shit, he jumped in Wanda.
This is Lodge Tales. I'm your host, Rod Williamson, and thanks again for joining us on another episode. If you are Native American and you'd like to come on the show to share your strange and paranormal experiences, please consider emailing us at lodgetales@gmail.com. Well, people, we're back. Arlin and I continue our conversation from the last episode, and in this one we talk about 7 Mile Lane. We talk about this place called Hole in the Wall, out by Heart Butte, well, east of Heart Butte, but then we go on to talk about Four-Horn Lake. We mention a little bit about that Serpent Lodge too in this episode. We tell stories of boarding school, more stories of that place. There's a story down there about cleansing a home. And then we go on to talk about the police dispatch. And this one that always talks with ghosts, or there's always ghosts around her when she's on dispatch. You'll see, it's crazy. And then there was a ghost at the police headquarters. In this one, since Arlen and I had such a long conversation before, my recording device split it in two, and we missed some of it in there. So I'll go ahead on that part and just kind of like interject and fill in where that part kind of got cut out. But that's kind of, about 3/4 into the episode where that happens. But I'll fill in so nobody loses the story there. Then I tell a story about when this EMT seen a spirit in this car. Anyways, they got a call to this house and they see a spirit in this car, and you'll see it's a pretty good one. And let's see, we talk more about Goatman, and it's a story I told about when, I heard about when it was cornered down in boarding school. I talk about that a little bit. Then Arlen goes on to talk about shadow people, and then this whistling spirit will be kind of like the last part that we talk about. I always encourage people to come on the show, and I'm doing it again here. If you have stories, like I said, just email them in if you don't want to come on the show, and I can read them for you. And if not, encourage other people that you know of that have really good stories to come on, so we can save them, preserve them for later, later generations and stuff like that. And I always talk about this, like my grandpa, he had a lot of stories. He was a part of a lot of stuff, things that he never shared with us, or we didn't think to ask because we were too young. Now my kids will have a lot of my stories out here, that are saved on here. So they'll be able to listen down the road and maybe even show their kids, or they'll just know the stories and they can talk about them themselves. Share my stories with their kids, or however it goes. But, it's kind of a cool thing that we can do this today and save these stories for the future. And so if there's anything that anybody wants to share as far as, all these ghost stories or anything, feel free to come on the show and share them with everybody, because we'd all like to hear them. There's a lot of people worldwide that listen to our stories, and I know that a lot of these stories are really appreciated because, well, we're kind of a unique podcast where not a lot of people get to hear firsthand from us how this all goes. There are some out there where, like those Navajos, they have, I don't know, it was like a video or documentary or something about when they were hunting a lot of the Bigfoot and strange things that happened with them, and it was it was on TV somewhere, but those things are few and far between, and it would just be good to get more of our stories out, well, in a podcast format, and if you do have people that please encourage them to come on. It's I know it can be difficult to open up about some things, but just know that you're in a safe environment and it's not recorded live. I'll go through and edit. We're only comfortable with putting out stories and material that you're comfortable putting out. We don't. There's a lot of stuff. I'm telling you, there's a lot of stories here. Like the really, really good ones, they have to be told in person. I'm not really comfortable sharing them on here either. Just like most people ain't. So just remember that too. We hold back a lot too. There's a lot of stuff that we don't talk about that would really, how would I say it? It would really blow your mind. Let me just put it that way. Some of these stories that we tell, and those ones are really, a lot of those are really personal stories where it's to do with those spirits, and when they come to you and share things with you, stuff like that. There's some of those that we won't talk about, and if we do, we decide to do it in person. It's just kind of the way it is. And so with that, again, thank you all for joining us again, and the patrons. The next episode is going to most likely be out tomorrow. I'm having a little trouble getting that one nailed down, so no worries, it's coming. And the patron episode is going to be about dreams. We're going to be talking about dreams, so stay tuned for that. One last thing, I'm going to be in Heart Butte for the powwow this year. I tried to make it to Browning. Geez, the stars didn't align. I wasn't able to make it. It's kind of a bummer, but I'll be up there for Heart Butte Indian Days. And when I'm up there, I'm going to bring my recording stuff, so hopefully we can get more from the powwow. A lot of people. Hopefully I can corner some, or people come forward. They corner some. Anyways, I'll go bum some stories for us. Okay, well, without any more messing around, let's get into it. Here's the second part with Arlin and I.
Reminds me of another one. What's it? This one's on Heartbeat. They always talk about stuff like that too. Out at 7 Mile Lane.
Oh, yeah.
The 7 Mile Lane. They talked about that a lot. Of course, growing up out there, my mom used to always talk about that, and she always told me. She showed me that rock out there, that Buffalo Rock they call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big rock there in the corner. Right where it turns east. He told me a story. Said if you ever, people give offerings and stuff to it, some type of spiritual or significance. And he always told me if you ever get stranded on this road at night, there's things out here. He said, come to this rock and stay at this rock until the sun comes up, and then you'll be safe. He said, stay here overnight. Just stay till the sun comes up and you'll be safe. I'd always ask her why, because we'd always stop there and leave tobacco, Mm-hmm. And he told me a story one time when I was a kid. He said one time there was this Indian who was coming, I don't know if he was walking to or coming from Depler. It was there a long time ago. That's like where a lot of the people go down to Depler and drink, and then, they take that back road to Heartview and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of like hitchhiking. I imagine there's a lot of wrecks and stuff like. There's a lot of bad stuff happened, on that road.
Yeah.
So one time she said, I don't know if he was coming to or from, but anyways, he was just kind of dark and there was money. Somebody just left money, left some money or something, and he took it. He took it from that rock, and he started walking away. And he got a ways away from the rock where he couldn't see it no more. And he said, next thing you could feel like trembling in the ground, like the earth was shaking. And he said it's like somebody would like come up to him and run like they had hoofs.
Mm.
And he'd run away. He'd get scared. As soon as he felt it coming, he'd take off. He kept taking off and looking back. And nobody there. Finally, she said it was like there was a bunch of them. You could hear them trembling coming from coming from one side of the area of the prairie he was walking. Finally, they were coming, and you could hear them getting closer. Like just really hear the ground shake and hear hooves trembling, and like when something really heavy is running towards you.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess he turned around and he brought that offering back to that rock and left it. He always told me that story. But she ever said, if you ever get stranded here for whatever reason, just go to that rock and stay there till sunrise.
Dang, I want to look for that rock. I drive by
You
there all
can.
the time.
Yeah, you missed it. It'll be right on your left when you take that sharp turn left.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I'm going to have to look for that next time.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've been there, but I always stopped and, made an offering. And you have to cross that fence. Before a long time ago, it never used to be fenced off. But now it is, but you can just cross it. I mean, a lot of people go there. I think they still go there. But, like, my mom was old, she was born in the 40s. So
Yeah.
a lot of them old people, they kind of just, passed on now, So I don't think too many people know that or go there anymore,
Where's, I remember Joe Can talking about some place called, what is it, some kind of coulee back there where there was an old house. I always try to remember the name of that. Was it, Hangover Coulee? No.
Sober Up Coulee.
Yeah.
Sober Up Coulee.
Yeah, where's that at?
I want to say it's on that road, but you go further north.
Oh, okay.
Because Al Potts used to talk about that. He said, back in his day, he said, I'd go to Queer, he said, I'd get drunk and wake up hungover and sober up Coulee with like, a couple dollars in his pocket or something. He used to always joke about that, but I want to say there because, I think a lot of them park there, they go there and pass out. And, but I want to say it's north of there, that road on there somewhere. But I never heard no stories other than Al Potts talking about it,
There's like a couple, I guess I'd say oddities around the res. Or, one of them I heard of is out by Blacktail. It's called Hole in a Wall. Have you ever heard of that place?
Hole in the Wall, huh?
Yeah. So what it is,
Blacktail?
out in Blacktail, yeah. So like, that back road out of Hart Butte?
Yeah.
If you go across that, you head north and you go across that coulee, all those trees, those pine trees or whatever, and you get up on that other side, way over there by what would it be, Rustler's Corral, somewhere up in that area. There's a hole in the ground that my brother-in-law said one time. He says, man, I dropped a rock in there one time. He says, man, I just kept hearing it go, just tick, 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 just bouncing, just kept going. He says, whatever that hole is, or whatever it is, man, that thing's big, it's deep, whatever's,
Yeah.
Well, I guess, they've covered it because, cattle could fall in there, horses or whatever, and they don't want them to, die or lose out on them or anything. But, I remember this other story that my brother-in-law told me was, now, y'all can make what you want of this, but he said one time somebody got lowered down in there. They were just gonna check it out and see. He says, but, when he come back up, he was so scared. I guess he seen, crickets that were, like as big as a calf or a dog.
Oh,
That's what he said. That's the story. Now, this story come from his grandpa, right?
yeah.
And he was just telling me what he heard about the place. But have you ever heard? Do you know of any more kind of like oddities like that? Just kind of odd places that make no sense or anything like that around the res?
Or let's see here. I never heard of hole in the wall on that one. Oh, I do know. You said it's in Blacktail.
Yeah, it's in Blacktail up by Rustler's Corral, kind of by my sister Chastenham's place. It's Tatsy's out there, and
Yeah.
yeah, but it would be
Oh,
west of their house up in those hills.
because let me think here. Because my partners that I grew up with, they're really close. Like all my brothers,
Hmm.
their grandma and them, they live at Chief Oliver Meadow, and I'll ask them, and I'll get back to you on that. They know that area really well, past what we call the Gap,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
we'll go over, and there's Blacktail, there's Chief Oliver Meadows, and then further you go, take that road to go back to Stones and stuff like that. It's interesting. You said they closed it off, huh?
Yeah, there's a like a big metal plate over it, so you can't.
Yeah.
So nothing
Well, that's
can
good.
get in there.
You don't want nobody falling in there, and then search and rescue attempt.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I always think of that.
There's also Four-Horn Lake too. That's kind of, I guess I would consider, and I don't know, it might be even kind of spiritual, but that's another odd one too, like that 7 Mile Lane and all these other places.
I heard. I got one. Of Four Horns. One time, me and my partner. This was like senior year in high school, and we just got done. It was probably about summertime. It's kind of a little early to still be swimming though. But we were down there one time, and it was like four of us.
Hmm.
We brought my dog. We used to have this. My neighbor owned this chocolate lab, and he gave it to me. So I took him, and he was a good dog. And we went down there to swim. He was kind of messing around the lake there. I think he's on the west side. And we just kind of, we'll just go swim. We'll try it.
Yeah.
But as we're pulling up, and we didn't really pay attention. Like, we didn't make no offerings or nothing. We just kind of jumped in there more or less. And then we got in there. It was kind of gloomy day, and it was a little bit breezy. But anyways, we kind of got in and we started swimming there for a little bit. And then next thing, my dog, he started, when we were there, it just kind of felt off. It had this eerie feeling,
Yeah.
And he stayed on the shore, and he kept looking towards the center of the lake, and he started barking. He started like kind of whining and going back and forth and barking. At this time, we're kind of just we're in the lake. We're not too far out, but we're swimming, and we all stop and we look in. Because one of my buddies said, "Stop!" He goes, "Look at the dog," and he's barking like he's trying to bark at something. And he's looking towards the middle of the lake. We all look towards the middle of the lake, and we're like, "Oh, boys, I don't like this. Like, that feeling in your gut. Let's get out." And, yeah, we get out, and that's, I guess, we get out of there, and we pretty much just leave after that, But that's, I guess, one story I have of there. Nothing really happened after that. Just, other than that dog, because, dogs, like, if there's something around your house or something, if you're in the country, they'll let you know when something's around.
Yeah.
And,
must have seen something out there, something we couldn't see, people couldn't see.
yeah, I mean, they had that, just that odd feeling. And so we got out and we left. The good thing we did, I didn't want to stick around or anything. And there was another story I heard that place. Someone had to stay overnight or something, or they're camping. Or, some people go out there and camp, or they did.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of hang out, overnight and spend a couple of days there and fish and just relax. I don't know if they're camping. I think they were drinking and they pulled out there because, like people partying and got around out there.
Yeah.
And they stopped. And they're all getting off and they're all kind of looking to the lake and you can see the moonlight, gleaming off the water and kind of glittering, sparkling in a way. I said next thing you could see, the only way they explained it is like they could hear something in the water. And it's like, when a speedboat or something goes really fast across the water, it like splashes water up behind it.
Yeah.
Like it shoots it when it's caught in the water, it sprays it upwards.
Uh-huh.
So it was like that, and it was going really fast around the lake.
Oh.
Like really fast. And it was just like spinning there, like literally spinning in the lake. And yeah, and they talked about that, and they said that they what they could see and make out that was doing that was running that fast or whatever it was in the water was like a snake, I guess, or like a serpent looking thing, something like that. Of course, they seen it and they all got flipped out, like freaked out, So they all bailed in and they took off, because they didn't know if it could jump on land or not, but if he was moving that fast on water, like it'd catch your car or something, so they ended up getting out of there. But that was another one that I've heard of that place.
Yeah, there's old stories about that place. The first episode, Daryl Bullshoe talks about that thing in there. The stories told to him by his grandpa. I mean, his dad, who learned them from his grandpa. Just goes on and on. But there is stories of some sort of serpent-like monster, I guess you would say, out there. Or I think they're spirits myself, but who knows what they are. And that I guess our tribe has a Clifton was talking about this to me one time. I guess our tribe has a lodge, a Serpent Lodge,
Yeah.
I guess
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
I guess it's tied to that lake, or if I remember right, it's tied to that lake. But that's really interesting. You say that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I heard that lodge. Yeah, person who has it, he says when you sleep, you sleep in it.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you get bothered, and he really laughs about it. He always like, let's put it up at I think at Oakon. Have somebody staying it with you. They're staying it for him. They get spooked out. He said it's really powerful.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
The story I was gonna mention about that place was this is one I heard is so they were out there ice fishing one evening and it was about evening, but they got back in their cars. They just left their poles kind of out there, I guess, wherever they were ice fishing at, and it started warming up in there. And or did they put their poles back in? Either way, whatever detail that slips my mind about that part. They were in their car and they were looking at that lake, and just out of nowhere, man, the whole lake underneath that ice lit up like a white light. Like something was under there and just turned on a great big old light. So they seen it light up like that underneath it, and again they just got the hell out of there. They didn't stick around. They left. It was just too weird for them, They headed out. I don't know what happened to their poles or how that part went, but yeah, they just left.
Wow.
Yeah, right in the wintertime, the whole underneath the ice just lit up like a big bright
Can you imagine
light. That? That'd be freaky, man. Ooh. I'd head out too, no. I'd dive right in there and go look. No. Yeah, that'd be I'd head out too, man. I don't think I'd stick around any longer either.
So, let's see here. Oh, it's another one I want to talk to you is about. Another one Mike brought up was boarding school, huh?
Yeah.
Then you had a pretty good story that happened down here with one of those matriarchs, huh?
Mm-hmm.
what's it? I don't know the name, but I heard that story when the cops came and checked on him. He
Yeah.
found him.
Yeah, it's pretty sad story, I think. Scary too,
Yeah.
you know.
See, I'll bring that up. When I first moved down here in like 2019, I've been down here for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, we first moved in. She's my little girl, was this tiny, barely walking, and we moved in, and you can kind of feel it in that house. There's something there, maybe something else going on. My wife's like, all right, I'll just cleanse it. I was like, all right, how's that work? I was like, do you need me? She's like, no, I got it, So he said, because when I'm in there trying to clean, get our house ready, our little girl, she'll stay near me. She won't go in there, she won't go anywhere. She'll stay right by me, and she kind of looks down those hallways. And she's like talking, trying to like talk to people. So she's like, I think we need to cleanse it. I don't know what's in there, or whose house it was. This and that. I don't know. I was like, all right, yeah, go ahead, And she cleansed it. And then it was all right for a little bit, I guess. And then it wasn't enough, So he said, it keeps bothering us. Whatever here is still something here. Like our daughter won't, won't play her anywhere. She'll just stay by me. She's like scared, But just kind of cautious. And I said, all right. So it got to the point where we had to have some people, some medicine people, I'll call them that, powerful, like that. People that cleansed their, they had to come and they literally had to come and cleanse their house for us. It was beyond our control. And these medicine people came, and of course they could feel it. They cleansed our home, and they said when they got to the basement, they chased it around in there, and they got to the basement of it. It was trying to blow the smudge out, that cedar.
Oh.
Yeah, and the Blackfeet way they use cedar and your tobacco for your barriers,
Yeah.
And so I guess it was trying to blow his smudge out, when it was underneath the basement. So they got it out of the crawl space, and they got it out of the house. And when it left the house, it was like a whirlwind, just like a big gust of wind passed through. And the woman that was there, it passed right by her, and out to the outside. And she said it smelled like alcohol. And whatever it was, she felt tension. Like whatever it was really angry. Like it made people fight and drink. But it left our home. When it left our home, it left,
Yeah.
And put our barriers down. But after that, it was gone. It was good, After that, my little girl could, run in those rooms. She was fine. And my wife, everything was good. We didn't feel anything. So, fast forward sometime later, like my neighbor used to live across the street. Before he moved, he was a corrections officer. He used to tell me he'd hear people outside his window. He said he heard this one person who was like trying to breathe or something, like they're struggling to breathe. Almost like they're gargling water, he said. And he got mad at it. He said, why are you bothering me? Like, if you're dead or whatever you are, you're not supposed to be here, like get away. And he'd tell me about it, And yeah, he'd say, just leave me alone. He said, so, I get up and I smudged my house and made sure, that thing can't come in here, I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. He said, it was bad, whatever it was, bothered me. But, like, nah. Those only two. Oh, and my neighbor, she was my former coworker. She lived in the house next door. And she always told stories of her seeing that. That's the one. I'll give you her information. She's a good one here about living down there. She would always see, her granddaughter would always see another little girl in their house with a white dress on, like dirty or something, and the white girl's trying to tell them, come with me. let's play outside or something like that. But directly, I kind of don't want to like say too much about let her tell that.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. It's pretty creepy. And she always told me she had stuff going on in the house. And, but of course, like we talked about being traditional and stuff. We know how to take care of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So those things don't bother us or try to come in our homes. So ever since we cleansed our home and stuff down here, it's been a good home. So the day we move from here, it'll be a good home for the next family that comes in.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. So we just got rid of whatever was here and kept it out. And hopefully it doesn't come back. But like you said, this was a boarding school, and I imagine there was a lot of bad things that happened down here. And there's a lot of spirits still, roaming around, I believe, down here. But I do know, it's like when Mike was explaining the layout of those rooms and what's going on, I was just picturing everything because the houses are more or less the same,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was kind of running it through my head, and he was telling me which room he was in, which room his dad was in, when all this stuff was going on. I was like, damn.
Yeah, we were just down there too not too long ago visiting my wife's aunt. She lives down there too. On that far west side. You go all the way back. She's like that first, around that first house.
Anna.
Yeah.
Anna, yeah.
Yeah, she lives right back there. And, I was trying to hit her up for stories too, but we had other things we were talking about, so I didn't go there. We just had a good talk. But anyways, yeah, I bet she has quite a few stories of that place. I'd like to ask her too.
But those old houses you talked about, they knocked them down, huh?
Yeah, that White House. Since you come down off of that hill, it was to the right. That one's knocked down now. That one's not there. And then there was, I want to say, a duplex right next to it. And when I was just a little guy, I started going to boarding school in the 2nd grade down there. I remember there was still foundations there. They were kind of tall, like that foundation out by the senior center in Hart Butte. That's kind of right to the north of that. That's kind of how I remember those. They were big foundations, and I remember they burnt down. That house burnt down. So those middle riders lived there. Well, Levi did, anyways. He was our friend. He'd come and visit us, play basketball and stuff. He was older than me, so I'd just listen to him talk to those older boys.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember he lived in one of those houses across from that White House at the bottom of the hill, on the right side there. Yeah, they're not there anymore. I remember one of those old matrons talking about some of the old days, talking about how they used to have to get the eggs, and tend to animals and the crops and whatnot before they went to school too. It's been there a while, old enough for all that,
So far, nothing's really came up. But then, now me and my wife, when our little girl, we keep our house pretty much in check. We make sure cleanse it, and we make sure our home's good. In our area we're in, and it's all good. Then having, your wife's relatives. I know they're traditional Blackfeet way. And they're really, really good about stuff like that too.
Yeah.
I know we can go to them for help and vice versa, if we ever need it. So, especially with stuff like that, spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, we just have, just animals pass through and probably Bigfoots,
Oh, Bigfoot.
And I heard he was down here, passing through and stuff like that. I hear people talk about him, and people find tracks and stuff,
Man,
That's kind of too. Oh, good.
I was gonna say we used to play all over in those woods too as a kid, man. All over there. I remember we go further up. There was some beaver dams too. We used to play around all back in there.
You see how it looks now?
It's kind of all grown over to me. It's what it looked like in the back where we used to play back there behind those houses toward that river. It seemed like it's all grown over now.
Yeah, and I remember it used to be a lot thicker brush and trees.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, it looks thicker now. Today, it looks thicker because I remember before. I mean, Maurice Redhorn and us, we used to all play. What the hell was his name? Mike Myers. We used to have one of those masks, and Jason too. He had one of those Jason masks. But we
Yeah.
basically play hide and seek back in all that area back there, and it seemed like it was a little thinner back then. And I remember this is a crazy story about Maurice. Sorry to bust you out, bro, but so I don't remember who was it. It might have been like Leon Sharp. Somebody was it. They had to have the mask on, and we'd all run out and hide in the brush, and you'd have to walk out, and you'd have to find everybody. And anyways, I remember I was close to Maurice, and he was hiding, and you know how big he is.
Yeah.
There was this little tiny bare branch. He couldn't find any place to hide in time, so he jumped behind that little tiny branch, only about as wide as big as your pinky finger. And he put that right in front of his left eye, and he closed his other eye, and that's how he was hiding behind that branch. But no, I remember it being a little bit thinner back in there. Why is it? What is it? Thinner now? You saying?
I mean, it still thickens up in this, when it's summertime, but during the winter it's pretty bare. That's because that fire that came through.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Kind of took all those big trees out.
All right. No, when I was there, it was at night, so I didn't really get a good look at it.
Because when I first joined the force, we'd come back here and qualify in the shooting range. And I remember it being really thick, the trees were pretty thick. Here, when I moved down here, I remember there was a fire,
Yeah.
Thinned it out or something like that. Something happened. But, yeah, well, I don't know how it looked before. I didn't move down here then, I was a south sider before that.
Yeah, to me, it seemed like those trees come further out. Because I remember younger, those trees were kind of up to those houses, but it just didn't seem like it was that. To me, it looked like those trees are almost right up to those houses.
Yeah.
Out there that night. But, no, yeah, it's changed. It's got that new boarding dorm there. I've never been in there, just in that old one, I think that new boarding dorm is where our football field used to be, if I remember right. Yeah, we used to be a big football field out there.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's where Darren Amesback busted Melissa Spotted Eagle's collarbone playing flag football, and he just pushed her leg, tackled her. It's funny. Yeah. Well, it wasn't funny, but I mean, just old memories. Yeah. Anyways, it was a big football field right there.
Oh man, what's another? Let's go back to police patrol.
All right.
Let me try to remember some. There's so many, I guess quite a bit. Another time, let's see here. One I always remember is we had this one dispatcher, man. When she worked, there was always something happening with her. She always talks to ghosts, I would say. One time we get a call. Well, it was like a normal winter day. It snowed that during the day. We quit in the evening, but it was calm. There's nothing going on really. And it's probably about midnight or so. And we're driving around, and first she gets on her radio, and she's like, you can hear her voice. She's a little something's going on. She calls her supervisor to go up to dispatch. And so he does. He heads up there. The next thing, they calls all of us up there. The whole shift come up. So, what's going on? So I go up there and I walk in, and they're all like, oh man, they're all like startled. What's going on? And the dispatcher, I'm like, listen to this. And it's a 9-0 back to the old system then. This was probably back 2015, 2016. They had a system where, it would record everything and everything like that. They have a way better system now, but then it was kind of old school still. And I just remember the dispatcher saying, they're ringing, you record the whole thing. It's like, 911, what is your emergency? Or something like that. And I remember this. It's just like it sounded like an older man. But he said, Send the cops over here, send the unit over here. And she's like, what's going on, sir? Where are you? And he's like, you can tell in his voice, he says, it's like he's running out of air. And he's like, they're going to kill me. And she's like, where are you? And, he says, I got a drug problem or something like that. Send a unit over here. And he goes, they're going to kill me. And all of a sudden, she goes, where are you? And he goes, I'm dead. And then it just cuts off. It just cuts off. And then it's like in the movies, you hear that beep, 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 the phone after a dead line. And it did that, and they recorded it, and we're like, holy, and then the maps, it came back on the GPS and the maps. It's like, where's this at? We found the house. It's like, let's head down there. We go down there, and it's boarded up.
Oh.
Nobody around. And the phones, they can tell. Dispatch can tell if they're old discarded phones and stuff like this. Remember when phones became really cheap? They're like prepaid.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell when they're inactive. Yeah, but that cell phone come back is inactive. Something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah, and it happened again. Like the second time was very similar. I remember. And there was another house. I think it was in Chinatown at the time. This time it's boarded up. They get sent there for some woman screaming for help or something like that. Or something like that. Or she said I died in this house or something like that. So they get down there, this time they have housing security, and housing security has a drill, so they take the boards off the door. Here they board the house up, they board it up.
Mm-hmm.
So they take the boards off, and the cops go inside and clear the house. There's nobody in there. I guess that person said, they died there, I guess, or something like that. I remember.
I come right on that call, though, huh?
Yeah. Because we never recorded them. I don't know what they ever did with them, but I know they recorded them. And we were listening to the playback, and we're just like, man. When I heard it, I was like, oh. And I was like, well, just make sure nobody's messing with us. So we head down there, and it's a vacant unit, nobody around.
Oh.
And, sometimes cell phones are like inactive, or, they're just pretty much disposable at that point, I just remember, man, usually something happened, and that was the same dispatcher on the other time I told you guys when I went out to Heartbeat with the old Margie Kennedy Center.
Yeah.
Nobody was there, but they're calling us to remove somebody. That was the same dispatcher. And man, I swear, every time she worked, something like that would always happen.
Talks to ghosts.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I don't want to say her name or anything like that, but if she's listening, she'll know who she is. Man, these are times I'll never forget. That on patrol, things just being in general would happen. Talking to ghosts.
Jeez.
Another time too at the dispatch there too. Dispatch center there in down and kind of a spooky place. We got dispatchers where they'd call us and say somebody's inside the building, like messing around, and we'd have to go up there and clear that whole building, and nobody'd be around. But it's like that. It's that old Head Start. It's by Dead Dog Lake there.
Mm-hmm.
The whole building right there. Right behind that white church.
Oh,
there's a
okay.
building there.
Yeah.
That's pretty much our headquarters, and I guess it was an old Head Start back in the day.
Yeah, I remember
I guess it's pretty spooky place. But I remember one day, I remember this, and it was me and another officer. We were in the officer's room. So we have a little room. We call it the officer's room or the basement. It's kind of an area where we process all our paperwork and stuff and do our reports.
Mm-hmm.
And next to it, we have our gym and a little parking lot area. So one time it was in the evening time. I don't know what I was doing, if I was on shift or just kind of hanging around. But an officer that is no longer, he passed away years ago, but he's a good friend of mine, my relation, and a really good officer, and he's my good friend. So anyways, he was processing a firearm and as evidence, so he was pretty much
And this is a part that was cut out. What happens was they were both sitting at this table and they were doing paperwork, and his buddy across from him was writing some stuff down, getting through his logs or his reports or whatever they were doing. Then all of a sudden the spirit spoke right in between them, and this is what it said.
Saying, hey, like between us. And he stops and he looks at me and I look at him. I was like, did you hear that? He's like, yeah. And we immediately look around and see if anybody's around. We go in the next room, we look in the gym, we look in the garage, nobody. We even checked the door, it was never opened. And that back door is always locked. And once it closes, it locks, so nobody can come in. And but yeah, plain as day, my partner was the only witness to that, but he's not. He passed away years ago. But I still remember that.
Oh.
Where people getting spooked in that place too. What did you have any ghost stories, or what did you hear about? Any police stories here that were paranormal? That was one I wanted to know.
I've just heard what Mike's told me. He's like the very first person that started talking about ghost stories and stuff. But that really kind of got me thinking. There must be more of you guys out there that have a lot of stories about this. But there's one I heard about this EMT, and she said, yeah, we got called to this house. There was a man, and at this point in this man's life, he was in his would have been his early 40s, I want to say, somewhere around there. But anyways, I'll say his name, but he passed away. It's old Joe Sam Scabby Rope. Everybody knows him.
Oh, yeah.
And so anyways, they got a call up there, and it turned out to be Joe. But well, anyways, let me just kind of back up here. Before they get to that house, they can't, there's a car kind of blocking like the part where they could pull the ambulance up a little closer to get in there. So the call goes like that. They got a man having chest pains, his age, and we, you guys need to get up there and go get him. And so they pull up like that, and that car is blocking it. And who's sitting inside that car? It's Joe Sam. He's sitting in there. And, he's just sitting there watching them. They get out and they asked him, well, where's he at? And he just pointed to that house. Didn't say nothing, just pointed in there. But yeah, when they walk in that house, who's laying on that floor is Joe Sam.
Oh.
But he was the one in that car pointing them to that house. I've heard stories like that, but the other one I've heard about those cops that is down in boarding school, where I guess they had that Goatman trapped in between that old boarding school, between the big boys' end and the big girls' end, right up to the rec room. That's a high ceiling. And it jumped over that building after a while, after they had it cornered there, the cops. And
wow, really?
Yeah, that was when I was a little kid going to boarding school there. We got back that fall after the summer, because you don't stay down there in the summer. And they were telling us that story, and it was from the matrons that were telling us that story. And see, I didn't hear anything about it, but everybody was like, oh yeah, it was on the scanners and everything, We're talking like that, but man, I always wish they never told us some of those stories, because we had to sleep down there.
Oh, yeah.
And at that time, I was just a little boy on a little boy's end, and what that means is if you're under, I think it's the 5th grade and under, you're a little boy. 6th grade and up, you're on the big boy's end. You switch wings of the boarding dorm. But on that little boy's end is where there was a lot of stuff there was kids that would play in those back rooms, but they weren't alive. You could just hear them back there, though. But that's the only thing, really. I never really, honestly got spooked a lot down there. It was always just really, really creepy. You could always feel something around, but the only thing that ever happened to me was those kids. That's come I never, ever slept in that hallway. Where the hallway, you could have a bed right there next to the hallway. That's why I never slept there, man, because when I first got down there, it was the first time I experienced somebody dying in my family. You know, I was sad. I was kind of like staying up
Oh,
late,
yeah.
and my family was all kind of like falling apart. But those kids, man, that would play back there used to scare the hell out of me. And I seen them kind of like run by a little bit one night when I was looking down there. That's when I first got there. That's why I'd never do that anymore. But there were times where that was going on, and we'd all pile in that front room, and to the left as you're walking down the hallway back to that main hall.
Yeah.
We'd pile in that front left room. All of us little boys, we'd put 2 beds together, and we'd all try to sleep there and like just stay there. But the matron would come down and see us out of our beds, and she'd get mad at us. I ain't gonna say her name, but she'd get mad at us and threaten to spank us and all that if we didn't go back to our. It come to that a couple times too, us getting spanked because we were scared to stay in our rooms back there. It come to that a few times. We'd get spanked. Geez, we'd be spanked, getting spooked. It was a hell of a time sometimes,
Oh, as a kid, yeah.
Yeah, it was, it was a hell of a time, a lot of those. And it's where, you learn to cope with it different ways. My way was putting my head under the covers, and I really liked AC/DC, even when I was that young.
Yeah.
I'd try to imagine there, because those guys would rent videos from Browning Video, and they'd bring them down there, and VHS player there, and that, that day room that we had down there, and I remember watching those videos, and I really liked those songs. I'd just try to remember those videos and those songs until I fell asleep. That's kind of how I'd get over it. But no, I'd never look down there anymore. But that was the only things really, aside from my cousin getting. And I've told that story where he got spooked down there on that side, that big boy's end.
Yeah. Was moving his bed, isn't it?
Yeah, moved his bed. It's like, oh cripes. But anyways, those are kind of the times down there. But as far as the cops go, that's the only other cop story I know it happened down there. Something weird happening like that to them.
Yeah, I've heard stories of them chasing Goatman, and stuff like that. And, towards the pencil factory and stuff.
That's a bad spirit, boy.
I've heard someone like explaining it. It was like so the only way they were vacuuming him, I guess, and he was running away. The only way they explained it was like it's almost like a person that was on the horse, really loping, taking off. And they just kind of pull away from the car, because they're off road. The car can't go too fast, And that's the thing I heard about that. And I've heard all the stories that were told on here about him too. And I heard another story in the past. I'll have to basically remember it, and then the person who told us that story, I'll get her permission to tell it one of these days to you guys. It was a really good one. She has some really good stories, and I'll give you her information too. Some crazy stories then.
Right.
Those stories, yeah. Especially she had one about him. She told us, and and then it's another one. Shadows, like an actual shadow people, I guess.
Yeah.
Like a person. One time I was at my brother's house, and I was sleeping in the room, and you know how light kind of creeps through the door? You kind of see the room a little bit. Some light, so you kind of see around a little bit. So anyway, one time I was sleeping, and I was taking a nap during the evening, and that door was really cracked, barely open in the house. The sunlight's going inside the house. Not sunlight, I'm sorry, like light was going inside the room, and I could see a little bit. But I just remember being woke up, like I got out of a dead sleep, and felt like something was staring at me, and I looked up, like I'm on my right side, and I looked to my left, I look up, and I see, one thing I can explain was like imagine it was a shadow, like a shadow, but it was like a figure of a man, like a person. It was just completely blurred. It was just a silhouette, looked like completely dark, and He looked like one of those guys on those bathroom signs.
Yeah.
That makes sense. He was all black.
Darker than dark. Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't see through him. And I woke up, I looked at him, and he's kind of just peeking at me, kind of looking over at me. And I kind of froze, and I'm like, and he kind of just, he looks at me for a bit, you can tell, and he kind of just like stands straight up, because he's leaning over, he stands straight up, looks at me, and he kind of slowly backs into that corner. And as soon as he gets by that corner, and it's like I can move, I jump up real fast. And I'm yelling at my nephew who's cleaning out a closet in that hallway, and that's the light that's coming through the door. And I yell at him, and he says, "What?" He says, he comes in, he opens the door. I said, turn the light on. And he turns it on. And then we look in that area and nobody around. And I'm telling him what I seen. And the next day I kind of told my brother, I said, hey, brother, I said, you have something in your house, you have a shadow in your house. Whatever it was in your house, it woke me up. In your house somewhere. He's kind of says, oh yeah, I know. I seen him the other day. Like it was nothing. I was like, what do you mean you seen him? He's like, I was laying here watching TV on my bed, and I look up and I see him. He's kind of like crouched up on the wall, between the ceiling and the wall, crouched in that corner.
Oh.
I was like, man, this guy, and you're not gonna do nothing about it. He's like, no, I'll have it taken care of. That was nuts.
Jeez.
But then, because you get people. I've heard people tell stories of seeing, like getting sleep paralysis, and they see something like something happens,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this one was crazy. The first time I've dealt or seen with a shadow. It turned out to be a spirit from down south.
Oh.
Yeah, they ended up getting rid of it from that house and sending it back, but it turned out to be a spirit from southern medicine down there, way down south. Yeah, so they ended up getting rid of it. But that's what it was. Oh man, it was nuts.
Oh, that's creepy.
And one time, in that same house, one time I got home late. It's about 1 or 2 at night, and I walked in the hallway. It's always dark, so I walk in the hallway, and the hair on my neck stands up. There's something in there, like behind me. I get this weird feeling, and it's just like a very, very light tap on my back. I feel it, like it barely touched me. Or it was barely, like lightly, gently, like just touched my back, like, and I can feel it. Where it touched, is kind of like a burning sensation, really light.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, that's another time I've been bothered at his house like that.
Oh.
Yeah. And it didn't harm me or nothing, it just barely tapped my back.
Yeah, but you knew there was something there, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, like before I walked in the hallway, it was just dark, and I was like, man, I gotta walk through this and get to that bathroom and turn the light on. Took a deep breath, I just kind of stepped through there, and I just felt it, like it was just stepping into a void. And I opened the door, and the second I opened that door and get ready to move, that's when I feel it touch my back.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just a very light tap. The hair on my neck stood up, I got goosebumps, and it felt like a light burning sensation. John, as soon as I opened the door, I jumped in, I turned the light on, and I jumped in, shut the door, and locked it. Yeah, so that's about, the only time that my brother's, did I tell you guys that story when I was on patrol getting whistled at?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I had to do a welfare check on a residence in old agency, right just west of that gravel pit there in the bottom there.
Mm-hmm.
Once you pass those double bridges, once you pass both bridges, you go further up, past the heartbeat turnoff. You go further up, there's the gravel pit, and then to the right, there's a residence. Just you follow that road all the way back. It's that second residence, I believe.
Mm.
So I head back there at night. It's probably about maybe 11 at night. It ain't too late, but completely dark out. just to do a welfare check on the elderly gentleman that used to live there. It's all right, no problem. So I head out there and I finally make it back to his house. And just the house there, and I think there's like barns or something around him, you know. So I light up my alley lights and I take down, and I put my brights on, and I just kind of get out and turn my portable on, my radio. And I walk up to, and as I'm walking to the house, something whistles at me. Like in that field, and that field's pitch dark. I can't see beyond maybe 100 feet, huh? Something whistles at me. And I say, you know, I know better. I ignore it, and I walk up there, and I see it looks like a dead mouse, and literally on his back in the can. And I remember, knocking. I finally make contact with that old guy. He says, "No, I'm fine. You know, I'll call my family, let them know I'm doing good. I'm just out here." I said, "All right." I said, "You got anyone in your field out here or anything like that?" He's like, "No, I'm the only one here as far as I know." I said, "Oh, okay." So I just kind of go in, you know, get back in my unit and tell dispatch, and everything's good, and I'm going to head back to Browning. But yeah, I mean, something whistled at me that night.
Yeah, you don't pay those no mind when they do that to you. You're supposed to just go about your
But,
way.
you know, that area, too, it's close to Ghost Ridge, you know, so that's what I thought, too. It's like, I better just, you know, I'm good, I'll just leave it.
Alright, that's all we have for this episode. Thank you all for being here and for all your support and sharing the podcast anywhere you can. It really goes a long way. It helps us get this show out to more people. The audience is steadily growing, and it's all thanks to everybody out there, and I really appreciate it. Well, like I said earlier, the next episode is going to be a patron one, and we're going to talk about dreams in there, you know, like what dreams mean to us, how to tell between a dream that will mean something and a dream that doesn't mean anything, and just I guess the strange oddities surrounding certain dreams and stuff. Yeah, we're going to go into a lot of detail in that, as much as we feel like sharing anyways, and of course share a few of our dreams that we've had and what we think they mean, or if we're still waiting for a meaning in them, and you know, just things like that. So stay tuned for that, and until next time.